All right, so what is the deal with this new law? I keep seeing all kinds of articles being shared all over social media. Most recent one, this is a news article. It says higher fees for borrowers with better credit scores. Biden's new rule on mortgages. Is it fair? Is it unfair? I want to kind of just dive into that a little deeper today because there is a lot of misconceptions around what it is. I get phone calls every single day asking why they're being punished for having a higher credit score and having to pay higher fees with this new law. It's not exactly how it works. So before you go out there and stop paying all of your bills to absolutely tank your credit so that you can get a better interest rate or better fees, don't do that. No, stop. So what actually happened, and I actually have the entire press release right here directly from Federal Housing Finance Agency, which I know is a mouthful in itself, but the agency that's in charge of making sure that lending is kind of fair and just ensuring that everything's going correctly with all the new laws when it comes to, mortgage loans. So we're talking FHA loans, Fannie, Freddie, which are the conventional ones. So anyway, the first misconception is that higher credit score borrowers are going to be charged more so that lower credit score borrowers can pay less. That is false. That is not how it works. What they did was something kind of complex, and it's a little difficult to explain unless you understand how mortgages work. It's the same reason why I don't ever quote interest rates. You can ask any lender, any real mortgage lender, if you call them up and say, hey, what are rates today? That is the most annoying question we get as mortgage lenders. That's like calling a car dealership and saying, what are car prices today? And if you called a liquor store and said, hey, how much is whiskey selling for today? There's not a flat interest rate that is just for everyone, right? They post averages on places like bankrate.com and other websites like that as far as what the average mortgage rate is. Your mortgage rate is going to be different based on a lot of factors. Here's a few of them. Let's just spit them out. The down payment, your credit score, the loan amount itself, the type of loan, whether it is going to be a primary residence, a secondary residence, an investment property, if it is a condo, if it is a manufactured home, if it's a single family, if it's a multi-unit. These are all things that can affect the actual mortgage rate. I always have to ask a lot of additional questions anytime someone wants to know what their interest rate is. And based on those answers, then we can actually discuss what the interest rate could potentially be and what the overall cost of it is going to be. As lenders, we have this pricing sheet that comes out daily. And so it'll have interest rates goes all the way down to 4% up to the 7.5% or whatever it is. And then there's a cost for each one of those rates. And it goes deeper. Depending on how long you're locking that interest rate for, there's a different cost. There's a different cost for a 15-day lock compared to a 30-day lock, compared to a 45-day, to 60 days, to 90 days, to a year. There's lots of things that go into it. So what they did in this pricing sheet, what the new changes that they made, yes, some of the changes did cause increases for certain types of borrowers. More specifically, a lot of those borrowers did have higher credit scores or were putting a larger down payment down. On the flip side, people with lower credit scores or people that are doing less money down and have lower income are getting a better discount now. But it's not specifically because of the interest rate. So making a blanket statement that people with better credit scores are going to pay less than someone with a worse credit score, that is straight up false. Comparatively, the higher credit score buyer is absolutely going to pay less overall than the lower credit score borrower because of all those other factors. You have to remember, if a higher credit score borrower, we're talking 720 and higher, is putting down 20% or more, they don't have to pay that extra mortgage insurance, which again, someone with maybe a 680 credit score that's only doing 10% down, they have slightly less fees in some categories, but again, they're also going to pay mortgage insurance and other fees that are going to offset those, and the overall cost is still going to be higher than someone with a better credit score putting more money down. So that's just one example, but the news is just really blowing this thing out of proportion. You know how I love to debunk all the stuff that the news says because half the time they just sell fear. And it was driving me nuts that mortgage lenders were resharing this information. I mean, what's the goal around that? Why are we sharing that people with better credit scores are going to pay more in fees? First of all, it's false, and second of all, what's the point of sharing that? Now we're just scaring people into not wanting to buy homes, those that have good credit. A couple other things that they mentioned, they did make some changes that were actually very helpful. I know I made a secondary video on the update for the upfront mortgage insurance premium. Similar to this one, they're trying to make home buying more affordable for those that don't make as much money. We know that affordability is a massive issue just overall right now, and especially when it comes to housing. We got the most recent report for inflation that came in that kind of talks about what those numbers look like. The two highest components of this report were housing. So a lot of these law changes are going to help those that it is more expensive for. It's going to put them in a better position. But again, this doesn't mean that the people that have worked hard, that have done well with their credit, that have made smart financial decisions to be able to make those larger down payments, they're not getting screwed over to get a better deal for the lower credit, less down people. That's just false. So get that out of the way now. That's not the case. The gist of it is this new change is not trying to incentivize those to put less money down to get a better deal. Because again, if you're putting less than that 20% down, you're gonna have that mortgage insurance and extra fees that go along with it anyway. All they're trying to do is help those that don't have a ton of money for the down payment or maybe are in a lower income category make it more affordable. So I think that's something we can all agree on. It's not making it less affordable for those that have the means, it's just making it more affordable for those that need additional help. We can all appreciate that. We can all use a little extra help, especially when it comes to buying a home, especially as a first-time home buyer with limited funds and limited savings. I do think there are a lot of positive things on here, so anytime you see that little news article that says Biden's trying to screw us over for having higher mortgage payments for those with good credit, just know it's false. There's a lot of false information around it. If you want the real information, and again, it's a little more difficult technical information because they've got to put it in the legal ones, go directly to the FHFA website. So we'll put it up for you here. This one has the actual press release of the changes. It debunks all the myths and all of the false information that's being spread right now and puts it in, I don't want to say plain English, but my video is putting it more in plain English. If you want a more technical readout, if you're more savvy and understand that stuff, here's the website, be sure to check it out. Just be aware that the news articles, they always post those clickbait titles. I mean, I literally Googled it just a second ago and I got a bunch of them. Why having good credit will now cost you more on a home, ABC News. Those with higher credit scores are going to pay higher mortgage fees, CBS News. This one's my favorite, Biden's Mortgage Socialism by Forbes, there we go. To be fair, I did read the Forbes article and it kind of a clickbaity message, but it does go into the pros and cons and it kind of sets it straight. So I'll give you guys a shout out, Forbes, because they usually do a good job. Again, it's not a blanket statement. It doesn't work like that. If you have a higher credit score, if you're in the 720 or higher credit score, you are still going to get a better rate and pay less overall in fees than somebody doing the exact same loan scenario with a lower credit score. That much is for sure. So don't go out there and stop paying your bills, default on all your credit cards and auto loans and things like that because you think it will help you get a better deal on a mortgage. That is a bad idea. And in most cases, that will get you out of qualification purposes if you stop paying your bills.